Hi, welcome. If you clicked on this video, you are curious in some capacity about ableism. So hi, welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad to have you. You are the group of people that I am talking to in this video, no matter where you're jumping in the process or understanding or conversation of ableism. I'm here to approach it in a non-judgmental, non-confrontational way. And in fact, I'm here mostly today to talk about how I confront ableism in myself and what that looks like in the scope, particularly of my business. So who am I? My name is Catherine Hubert. I am a restaurant owner in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I have an integrated work team, which means that 50% of my staff is disabled and 50% of my staff is non-disabled. I am a non-disabled business owner with an integrated team, which means that every day I am being faced with my own thoughts and my own feelings around disability and have been dissecting and deconstructing that over the past 6.5 years that my business has been in existence. So don't freak out, don't go anywhere, please stay with me. We are here today to get curious. We are here to explore some of our own bias, and I'm going to use myself as an example. So I don't want to lose you. It can be hard sometimes to talk about any of the ists. If you're racist, if you're ableist, if you're sexist, it can be hard to start to do that work. But I'm here to do it with you, and I'm here to hopefully do it in a way that allows us to actually do the work instead of getting in our own way. So step number one, this was step number one for me, is getting to the point where you can admit that you have bias. That was a hard journey, and I'm not expecting to take you through that entire journey in the process of this YouTube video. That would be impossible. However, for me, in my own process, a lot of this work that I'm now doing in the realm of disability understanding and awareness and breaking down my bias started with doing work around my understanding of race and racism in myself and in America. And for a really long time, I fought doing that work because I kept trying to adamantly protect myself by saying, I'm not racist, I can't be racist, because that to me was connected to so many different things. And that means I'm a terrible person, and that means I am judgmental, then that means I'm prejudiced, then that means I'm perpetuating bigotry in my life. And I was so afraid of acknowledging all of those things that I kept myself from acknowledging that there is racism in my life and in my mind and in my behaviors, because I'm a white person in America who grew up middle class in the South. Of course, there's going to be harmful and false ideas and ideology that I have internalized and that I have not even thought about before. And getting to the point where I was able to say, okay, this is something that I'm dealing with, then tipped me over into, okay, now what are we going to do about it? I couldn't get to the now what are we going to do about it until I was willing to admit that it was there in the first place. That took a while for me. So no matter where you're at in your own process or your own journey, just know that it is a process, it is a journey. But that was the real tipping point for me. And then that has changed the way that I'm able to interact with my bias in a lot of different areas of life once I found the freedom of recognizing the bias is there. Now what are we going to do about it? It was empowering to recognize I don't have to stay there. I can change this. I can learn to see and to think and to feel differently about things. I can educate myself. I can do the hard work. That became really, really motivating and has led a lot of this process for me in also understanding what ableism is and how to tackle the bias that I have around disability as well. Before we get too much further into this, let's pause briefly and just create a definition for what ableism is. And if you're interested, I have another video over here that dives into it into more detail. Ableism is the belief that a non-disabled person is superior to or preferable to a disabled person. There's a lot of different nuance that we can get into with that and how we define it, but that's the general umbrella term that I'm going to be operating with today. So for me, in my personal life, and then also in my work, confronting my own ableism, my own bias against disability or towards someone who's non-disabled, it starts with awareness. So before we even get into the questions that I'm going to give you to ask yourself, that I also ask myself, it starts with awareness, just being open to and observing the way that I or you are behaving in the world and the ways that we are interacting with people with and without disabilities, noticing the things, our patterns, the things that we're doing, the things that we're not doing, and bringing in some curiosity around all of those things. It's important in the process of breaking down bias to do your best and remove shame and guilt from the process. Those will send you into a spiral that's generally not productive and is not helpful in identifying what is actually going on and then being able to move towards or through it. So being curious, being observers, starting to notice the way that we're behaving. And then once we've done that, these are the questions that we can start to ask. If you're new here, welcome. Please like, subscribe, comment. We're so glad to have you join this community. Question number 1, am I treating a disabled person the same way that I would treat a non-disabled person? This doesn't mean that all of our behavior is always going to be the same with every person. Naturally, hi Zach. Naturally it's not going to be because each person is unique. However, some of the things to really pay attention to in this are we treating disabled and non-disabled humans with the same level of respect? Are we asking for consent with a disabled person the same way that we would with a non-disabled person? Are we giving the benefit of the doubt towards a disabled person the same way that we would a non-disabled person? Picking up on some of those overall themes and patterns can be a great place to start with this question. Then, once we've asked question number 1, question number 2 is, what am I assuming about disability or this person in this process? I'm going to give you an example, a personal example, where I confronted my own ableism. A couple of weeks ago, we had a group of students come from GTCC and they were doing a tour of our space. The students were disabled, the instructors were non-disabled. I started with an introduction and welcome back in our classroom and living room space, and then we came and did a tour of the restaurant, and then ultimately they sat down at one of our tables and ordered some food off of the menu and finished the tour with a meal. I was acting as the server for the group. I got drink orders, I went to go grab drinks, and I just put them all in plastic cups with straws. And that was a moment of flagging awareness and recognizing, why am I doing this right now? And one of my teammates also asked me, like, why are you doing this right now? So I was doubly aware. Like, I was starting to register with it as the person was asking me. And then first I felt a little bit ashamed because it was like, why am I doing this? And then came that follow-up of like, am I treating this group of disabled students the same way I would a group of non-disabled students? And the answer was no. Like, our general practice is to greet everyone with glasses and not plastic cups unless you're a kid. And so then that was the follow-up of like, what am I assuming or what am I believing right now? And that was somewhere in my mind, I internalized with this group, and it was fairly subconscious, which is also a little bit alarming, but was good to pay attention to, that I'm infantilizing this group. Like, I'm assuming that they need to be treated like kids. They might break the glasses. I guess that would be the only assumption that I would have in that moment, which leads to the third question that I have, which was, does my behavior need to change? In this instance, it's kind of already committed because I'd already done it as I was realizing it. So it's like, well, I guess everyone's getting plastic this time, but I'm going to stop and think about this and think about what incorrect assumptions I made and how I treated someone unfairly and in a way that's not congruent with the way that I would treat non-disabled guests, and make that change in the future and use that as an opportunity to push back against that bias that adults with disabilities are oftentimes treated like children and like they need help, or that they couldn't do something for themselves, or they're not dependable, or they might break things. And so that was a moment of recognizing that I had done that, and then also making a commitment to not do that to the best of my ability moving forward. So that's what I've got for today. Thank you for being here. Thanks for sticking with me through this process. I hope it was helpful for you. If anything else, to just know that this is my line of work and it's something that I'm committed to and that I practice daily, and I am still daily confronting my own bias and recognizing ways and areas that I can and need to be doing better. So it's not a I've arrived. It's not that I ever expect to arrive. It's very much I'm committed to continue to learn and to change my behavior when I'm aware that it's harmful or that I'm viewing something incorrectly, and then hopefully create some community around that so that we can grow and change and learn together, pushing for more equity and equality in our world. Asianist teammates, your keyword for this week is awareness. Quick announcement this week, I have started a Substack, which is a written platform for newsletters and more blog style writing. So if you enjoy the content here, if you would also like to see it in a written capacity, then I hope you will find me there. You can find me at Catherine Hubert, and the link is also down in my bio. No insecurity corner this week. My story and example in this video is serving as my current insecurity, but brain break. This past week, my good friend Linda, who was also our sous chef and then chef here at Asianist in the first few years that we were open, came back to visit this weekend, which meant that I got to spend some good quality time with Linda and Annette, who is my general manager. We played pickleball in the park on a beautiful random winter day, and then also got to do some fun thrift shopping, which included looking for some items for a little French market that we will be adding to the restaurant later this spring.